You're listening to a podcast for the deep thinker, seeker of growth and spiritual transformation, where intellect meets intuition. How to grow your money and keep it. We're going to be talking about the power of being intentional with your finances. So, how do we grow money and how do we keep it?
I mean, it's probably the hardest thing to talk about because a lot of people I find don't really like talking about finances, and maybe it's just in the Black community, I don't know, like with my family. Like, I don't remember growing up and we were talking about finances. There wasn't that transparency, which I think makes it really difficult when you're an adult to really understand finances and not be afraid of it. And I think at school, we're not taught anything. So I don't know. How do you grow your finances? How do you keep it? I think the first thing to consider is that, income is all you've got. Your income is what you have. So whether it's, working in a restaurant or working in a corporate job, that income is your first step to having money. Before you can even think about growing it, you have to first of all have it. You have to be able to acquire it. So I would say getting a job, a career, or even if it's a part-time job, have something that brings something in. Then once you have something coming in, you can now say, okay, how am I going to manage this income? How am I going to, make it grow? What purpose am I going to give this income? Because a lot of people earn, but they don't give it purpose. They're not like, oh, I've just received this money. I'm going to use this to do this. I'm going to use it to invest in that. Actually, you'll find that they just kind of pay bills, spend, and, you kind of run out of money by the end of the month. But if you give your income a purpose and kind of an assignment and say, actually, this income, 50%, I'm going to save towards a house, or I'm going to save towards an asset, I'm going to save towards that business, then you have motivation to start saving and growing.
Think that's the thing that people miss out a lot. It's, do you have a plan for your money? What does financial planning look like? And I think historically we've always believed that financial planning is, spend, save, invest. But actually, do people actually understand what that means? Do they know why they're doing it? What are they saving for? What are they investing for? And I think that a lot of the time, if you, like you said, if you don't give money a job, it will, it will just get spent on unnecessary things. So I think I've personally been through a journey of transformation when it comes to finances and just how I plan, how I budget. Definitely think that it took a while to become someone that was very studious about like having a budget and sticking to it. And when I was able to master that, I personally saw transformation in my life. I saw that I was able to do so much more. And I think that no matter how much money you make, how much you've got, the mindset is what needs to be worked on first. But I will say, I think a lot of people are fortunate in this current generation to have access to so much information about wealth. It has never been easier to invest, for example. It has never been easier to access, wealthy people who have experience. And so I think that on one hand, there's no excuse, but on the other hand, I think it's going to take a long time for people to change their mindset around money, around spending habits and things like that.
Yeah, and I think you make a really good point in terms of where you talk about the wealth of knowledge out there. I mean, I think I've signed up to Masterclass. Have you heard of Masterclass? Where you can kind of hear people telling their stories and, the jobs they do and all that kind of thing. And I find it so intriguing and interesting. And I remember even watching Martha Stewart, her masterclass and some of the things she was saying and her documentary and all this information about how to create wealth and how, they worked hard and how they presented their ideas and they were so focused on, it was really, really helpful to see that actually they worked really hard and they started from somewhere, and I think while there's all that information out there, there is a difference between information and wisdom. So you can have lots of information, lots of advice, lots of books, lots of blogs, lots of podcasts, and it doesn't necessarily translate into well-applied judgment in your life. And I think that's the difficulty. Sometimes we're not able to make the transition from all this great information to how do I apply this in my life and get the results, because it's about getting the results. And so I think it's really about looking at your personal income and not anybody else's, not looking at anybody else's life, but looking at your personal situation, your level, and being able to start from somewhere. You know, Rome wasn't built in a day. If you watch these documentaries, hear these interviews, they started from somewhere, you know.
Love a cliche.
You've got to always start from somewhere. You know, you've got to, you know, no matter how small it is, you've got to value it. Because if you don't value the small thing in your hand, it's not going to grow.
Humble beginnings.
It's not going to grow. You've got to value it. But if you resent it and you're like, oh, I resent that I've only got 10 followers. Oh, I resent that I've only been paid, you know, this amount. Oh, I resent that I don't have enough to buy this or to travel here like those people. If you're resenting your little beginning, if you will, you're not going to be able to grow it.
Spoken like a true millionaire. I'm reading from a post that was shared recently. It says, there are a few unnecessary expenses that I had to cut out. First one was getting my nails and feet done. I haven't had these for over a year. Press-on nails have been doing the job. Eyelashes. And I've cut out alcohol. 1 year and 11 months sober, saving tons of money. Have you got any tips or tricks that have worked for you in terms of cutting expenses back?
I think what people forget is I feel like money is a shapeshifter kind of, and it takes on the personality of whoever has it. You know, it takes on their personality. It takes on, you know, the spending habits. And I think it depends on the individual. So for me specifically, I wouldn't be saving money by not doing nails, because I don't really do nails. There's certain things I don't do, so it wouldn't be something that I'd need to cut out. Whereas for someone else, it might be drinking coffee every day. But the truth of the matter is those little things are not the things that will make a big, big difference.
I think when you have an expense that's recurring, whether it's $5.99 or $59.99, I think over time it does add up, and I'll tell you why. So for some people, it's nails, it's hair, it's maintenance. For other people that don't do those things, it could be Deliveroo or Uber Eats or like, you know.
That was a low blow, because she knows.
You know, it could be that.
I literally am a shareholder in Deliveroo when it comes to
so yeah, so you've got shares in Deliveroo. I have shares elsewhere, but I think back to the point, that thing that is insignificant because it's not a lot of money, and because it's not a lot of money, you don't treat it like everything else. You actually don't scrutinize it in the way that you would scrutinize larger purchases, and that's why it's kind of sneaky, and that's why it leads you down this path of poverty, because you've ignored it because it's, you know, it's too small to care about.
I mean, you're definitely right about that, because actually I remember looking at my Deliveroo account and I was thinking, oh, what have I spent over the last 2 years? And it was like £6,000. I was like, what? And it was crazy, because you can do your shopping there as well. It's not just like restaurant food. And I was just like, £6,000, what? So I am guilty, and it does add up actually. But I don't think, like you mentioned there about on the road to poverty, I don't think it's, I think when we're talking about poverty and not having enough, I think it's really about your habits and your mindset and the things that you need to put in place. So if you're trying to avoid poverty by not taking a coffee or not, you know, ordering food, then you're just going to be just surviving month by month. But what if you want to actually build wealth, that has to be intentional, and it has to be more than just, you know, managing what you have. It has to now be, okay, using what I have, growing what I have, and using it to get more.
And I think that leads me on to my next point, which was that when we look at the average UK household, I can't remember if the average UK salary is 34k or slightly less in maybe some parts of the country. But I think the point is, for a lot of people in their reality, their earnings and their disposable income after expenses just isn't enough to stretch beyond, maybe like an emergency fund. And then when you start talking about wealth generation and investing, a lot of people haven't even managed to cover their essential bills, or they've barely just done that. And so I think, like you mentioned, it is an intentional effort to increase income. And I think to increase wealth, let's be honest, income needs to increase.
Yeah, exactly. Income needs to be the focus. It's not even because we focus so much on spending. Oh, my subscription, Netflix, cancel this, cancel that. And that's good for budgeting. But in terms of wealth creation, you need to focus on income. How do I increase my income? What do I need to do in addition to what I'm doing? Okay, what can I set up? How can I make more money from this? Because if you're just focusing on one stream of income, which is your job, then you probably will be struggling, especially with the cost of living nowadays. So you really want to be thinking about something else you can do creatively, a business, selling, e-commerce. There's so many options out there. And I think investing and trying those out, is really the best way to go. Like, you need multiple streams of income. You need multiple options. So relying on one pathway to get income, I think, is probably not a good strategy.
And what are some of the options that have worked for you?
Definitely, I think having a career, like I said, you want a good, stable career or job that gives you income. But you also want to have other things. So whether it be online businesses, property, has always been a good one. Buying lands, researching those things. Now, don't just do things without doing your homework and your research. I know many people that get scammed, many people that, have really bad business deals. And if you're not really, used to investing, you need a mentor. You need someone to help you through. It's not something that you want to just do. And if it's your first time investing in something, please don't be like, okay, here's 20K to do this. You got to do it in bits. Start small. Okay, I'll invest 5K in this. Okay, you got to start small. Otherwise, you might set yourself up for failure.
And I think we need to be honest about the truth when it comes to entrepreneurship and running, developing, growing a business. That's years. Like, that's time, that's sleepless nights, that's hiring the wrong people and then having to get rid of them because it's not working. And like, there's so much involved, so much sacrifice involved. And I just don't think people talk about that enough. And we've experienced a bit of it in our like business ventures where we've seen like both sides, good and bad. And so I think that we do need more people that are willing to share knowledge and just share like and signpost as well. Like, who do I speak to if I need advice on this? And I feel like that's what's hard to find.
I think definitely start with, okay, what do I have as an income? Then think to yourself, how can I increase this income? When you realize how you can increase it, now, is there someone I know that is currently doing this already? Yeah? Reach out to those people, write a letter, write an email. It will take some level of humility. It will take a level of humility, being honest with yourself. It might even be painful, but, going to people and saying, look, you're doing what I really want to do. Can you please show me? Can you help me? Can you advise me? And, 8 out of 10 times, people will want to help you. Unless they're really busy or they're going through something, people generally will want to help you, or they'll point you in the right direction. But you got to kind of come off your pedestal and your comfort zone and ask for help, And I think sometimes with the younger generation, it's difficult to ask for help because they feel hesitant, or they feel like maybe they know it all already, or it's already online. But nothing can make up for having a really great mentor. And where I've been able to make big strides in business, in finance, in life, it's just been having an amazing mentor that was able to say, actually, I made that mistake, don't do it. Or actually, this is the time to sell. This is the time to buy. All that kind of thing is invaluable. And I think, so finding the right people and reassessing how you can increase your income, I think will be two great strategies.
I actually quite like the idea of having a money mentor.
Yeah.
I've had a career mentor. I've spoken to different people about mentoring them at different points in time. But actually having a money mentor is very specific.
Yeah.
Someone that just talks to you about finance. I mean, you could call it, I mean, back in the day, they would call it an independent financial advisor. But I think having someone who's really good with money and, you know, has had a lot of experience. And when I say experience, I'm talking like they've seen money, they've, you know, they've grown money and they've invested it and they've used it wisely. I think having those people in your corner and in your contacts is invaluable, I would say.
Most definitely. And I think earlier on I was speaking about, you know, money having different personalities depending on who's spending it. And I'm not sure I finished that point. But I think what I was trying to say was, you know, personality really influences spending. So having a money mentor can also help mitigate that. It can help balance that. You know, some personalities, it's like, I need to have this now if you're quite impulsive, or if you know, some people, it is good therapy. You know, sometimes you feel down, you think, oh, I want to spend on this, I want to do this, you know, that kind of thing. You know, I know a lot of people that, you know, they'll have money, but because they don't plan, they don't have much of it, or it's always gone, or they're always like, oh, I always don't have money. And I'm like, every time I speak to you, you don't have money. Every single time, but you work. Why is it the same every time? Something is not changing. So it's either they adopt a personality or a mindset of, I just don't have money. I'm just not one of the rich folks. I just don't have that. That's just not my life. You know, they adopt a kind of mindset and a personality with money, which means that they continue to perpetuate a cycle of deficiency and lack. And I say to them, don't say you don't have money. Don't say you're broke. You do have money, but now we've got to think about how to get more of it or how you're spending it, you know. And sometimes they don't want to plan or face that because it can be embarrassing. It can be really difficult. Whereas me, from a child, I know you can remember when we were really young, I was always saving. If I had pocket money, I'd be saving it because I was always the personality that was like, you know, if I have £10 today, you know, I want to save it so I at least have double next week. You know, I wouldn't just spend it. Whereas, you know, our younger brother would be like, let's go and get sweets straight away. And he'd go and get sweets and spend it all.
Yeah. And I think if I look back to our behaviors with money, and I think you mentioned, you know, people perpetuating the same situation because of the decisions that they make around money. And I think it is really behavioral. And I think it starts young. You've got to almost unlearn and relearn things. And if I look at my personality from like when we were younger, you were the saver, and I was actually quite frugal. So I wasn't like the lavish spender. I was actually quite frugal, and I think that frugality has probably helped me like to some extent. But then I have days where I'm just like, I'm one extreme or the other. So there'll be days when I'm like, no, buy cheap, buy twice. So I'm gonna get the good thing. And then other days where I'm like, no, we're gonna go for value here. So I think it's definitely about being balanced and having a balance in life. Sometimes it's actually beneficial to treat yourself because there's sometimes the psychological cost of not having that thing might actually be more detrimental than not having it.
That's true. And I think there's a lot of psychology involved with spending and with money, which is why a lot of people have difficulties with finance as well. And I think debt is a big issue as well. So there's just so many things to cover. But I think if you start from the vantage point of knowing, you know, what your money personality is, and then you can start thinking about how to make those amendments and those adjustments. And I think it's really important that people understand that they shouldn't allow money to control them or to manipulate them. You know, you're in control of it. It shouldn't control you, you know, and the commerce, the society shouldn't control you. You know, just because something is on sale doesn't mean I'm going to go and buy it. Just because something is a new trend doesn't mean I'm going to go and buy it. Because I've got to a point in my money personality, if you will, where I understand that they don't dictate to me how I should spend my money. So, you know, if I like something, then fine. I can save towards it or I buy it. but I'm not going to buy something because it's popular or because it's well known or because it's from a particular designer. You know, that's kind of a manipulation that we have in, you know, business, at the expense of people's financial well-being. And I think, again, developing your maturity to be able to not fall for those gimmicks is a big help in trying to reach your money goals.
So how do you grow your income and keep it? Well, growing income is not a destination. It is a journey, and that journey involves daily habits. It involves consistently building the right attitude and mindset towards money, being intentional with your planning, your saving, your investing, and that's how you're going to see the difference in your finances.
Definitely. And I think it's making those intentional changes and those, you know, conscious steps to bring about change in your life. And you'll definitely see the benefits. It might not be tomorrow or next week, but if you do it consistently, eventually you'll see the benefits for yourself and your family. So, yeah, I think it's definitely something that we should all be serious about and start making changes.
Yeah.
We're so happy you made it this far, but don't stop there. Subscribe to our channel so you can see episodes as soon as they drop. Thank you.